Wow, that was beautiful, Dana. Thank you, and very powerful. And just so you know, everybody's loving it. All right. So today we are talking about what we've been talking about for the last 7 weeks. It's our last week. So how do we take our nonviolent communications skills into the world? How do we continue to develop them? To listen with compassion, to be that peace that we want in the world. Because we know that when we use these tools, it changes our thoughts, which transform our own lives and the interactions that we have with others. It shifts us into that next realm of consciousness with ourselves, others, and the world. We really have 3 choices. And those choices are looking at ourselves with empathy. Looking at others with empathy. And being honest about the expression of who we are in the moment. We are expressions of God, seeking that spiritual experience, seeking a better life for ourselves, for our families, for our friends, for the community, for the world. And so when we do these things together, we raise our own vibration, but we raise the vibration of the others around us, which has that ripple effect that we talk about a lot here. Especially in challenging times. And I don't know about you guys, but the last 7 months have been challenging in a lot of ways. COVID-19 hit, social unrest became the norm. In addition to all the daily challenges that we face in our jobs, careers, school, life, whatever that looks like. Now we have limited social interaction. We're isolated, except through technology that many of us, and I'm going to speak for me, I was trying to get away from because I noticed I was spending too much time on it. And now I'm on it all the time. Every meeting that we're in, we're looking at a computer. If you want to have a conversation with someone that's far away, like your mama, like me, you know, you're on that phone. I'm on the phone every day as I come into church, talking to mama. Because it's, you know, for me, you all know I like to go to Texas to see mama once a quarter, right? I haven't been there in a year and a half. I have seen her because she came up for a wedding, but even in COVID, on Wednesday I'm flying to Texas because I need that, I'm trying to take that word need out of my vocabulary because I don't really need anything. I desire to see my mama, you know, right? And so for me, that's a self-care mechanism. Because I'll go and I'll rest and, we'll have fun. I'll do her nails and, we'll talk and I'll wear my mask the whole time I'm there. That's okay. I wear it every day anyways. And I know that I'm going to be healthy and whole, and she's going to stay healthy and whole, and we'll have a good time. But that's where we're all at right now, right? So we're developing new habits. And our world has changed forever. And that's upsetting some, right? Now we have, I don't know, there tends to be a lot more unsettling in people, I've noticed. A lot more emotional unrest and anger coming out. So this is really important, this nonviolent communications and how we interact with ourselves and how we interact with others. And it really goes back to what Unity teaches. Our thinking creates our realities. The reality that we're trying to manifest in this lifetime. And I'm not going to get in the topic of whether it's real or not. I'll let you guys think about that one on your own. But we are working to raise our consciousness. And as each of us work to raise our consciousness, it allows us to encounter opportunities to shift higher. And that's where we're at right now in our world. We have lots of opportunities to shift into a higher consciousness if we're willing to do the work. And it is work. It is not easy. Sitting in daily prayer, starting out in the beginning in meditation is hard. Sometimes it's hard for me, and I've been doing it for 61 years. But it's worth it. And that's how we all have to begin. Because what we're really doing in all of this process, even in meditation, and this is important for people to realize, is that we're rewiring our brains. Because for many of us, depending on the choices that we've taken along the way, our brains may not be fully into the frontal lobe, or this part of the brain where we make those conscious decisions from, where we actually shift our consciousness up higher, is all right here. And a lot of times we're still living in that fight and flight reptilian brain that we're born with. And don't get me wrong, it's a great mechanism for us to be safe, and we need it. But we can't live there. Because if we live there, we create all of these chemicals in our body. And I don't know about you all, but during this stressful time of COVID, there's some weight gain, right? Even though we can get out and move around and be freer in that aspect, and we might have more time at home, are we doing more meditation? Are we really? Are we just busy? And when we're thinking, what are we thinking? So what do you think about yourself? Because it starts with you and self-empathy. What are you thinking about yourself? Listen to what you're saying. That song, Our Thoughts Are Prayers? Be careful what we're saying, because we're praying those thoughts. Yeah. So what are you saying to yourself about yourself? And doing some of the work. Is it true? Right? So if you go to Byron Katie's work, Martha Creek's work, is it true? Is it kind? Is it loving? Because you really need those loving thoughts about yourself right now more than any other time on this planet that we're faced with in this day and time. I'm sure in the past there's been other times. But loving yourself, being aware of what you're saying to you, about you, being gentle. When we make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. We just have to be conscious of it. Say, I'm sorry, forgive me, or forgive ourselves. That's usually where it lies at, is in that forgiveness work for ourselves. And that's not easy work. It takes a lot of awareness, some honesty, integrity, and being accountable to yourself. So being empathetic can help us accept and process our feelings. Look at that mirror of yourself and say, I love you, and mean it. Because how you respond to yourself typically is how you will react in response to others, whether we mean to or not. At some point, if we don't love ourselves enough, we will react with others in a negative way. And when that happens, because it's going to happen, right? Somebody's going to push our buttons and we're going to react. And at my house, it's usually my husband. God love him. We all do. But it's the truth. I can be very loving and I can be very kind and I can be all of those things. And sometimes I just go, really? Seriously? We're going to do this now? And I kind of feel sorry for him because, it is what it is. But we have to try to understand the other person's point of view, right? We got to understand it. We got to look at it from their shoes. What's their perspective in this? We can't go with our thoughts about it because it's not us. We have to be really empathetic, fully emphasize with them. I'm having trouble with that word today. And that's okay. We have to have an open mind. So we have to let go of those preconceived notions that we've created in ourselves, about ourselves, about the situation, or about others. Because more than likely, it's not true. Nobody's out to hurt you, really. They're hurting themselves. You're not out to hurt anybody when you make a bad choice. And yet, we have to take care of ourselves so that we can be there for others. Loving others, listening to others. One of the key things that I've learned over the years that I've been practicing nonviolent communications, and especially what I call compassionate communications. So those of you that have worked with me know that I'll talk about it as compassion communications. Because really what we're doing is we're creating a foundation for our relationships with ourselves and our relationship with others. And when we listen compassionately to ourselves or to others, we feel heard and we feel understood. And I know it sounds strange to hear yourself how you feel and have an understanding about yourself, but it's the truth. So the same thing that you would do for someone else, you have to do for yourself. And what is the exchange of messages that we're having? What are you exchanging with yourself? What are you exchanging with others? So we clearly have to listen to what is being said, no matter who's saying it. And sometimes the communication is nonverbal, right? I mean, you know when somebody's not listening to you. They're all like this. Or, you know, when they are listening to you because they're looking at you in the eye. And you feel their heart open to your heart. So really we have to decide to take the time to listen, to do the work. Good listening means listening without trying to second guess yourself or assume you know what someone else is going to say. Compassionate listening is being aware that blaming, criticizing, lecturing, advising, judging, ridiculing are not good listening. None of you all do that, I know. You don't blame anybody, not even yourself, right? You don't criticize yourself or lecture yourself or others. Respect where you're at. Be gentle with yourself and with others. Because the more that we demonstrate those good listening skills, the higher in consciousness you will move. And I love this quote. It's by Mark Twain. If we were supposed to talk more than we listen, we would have 2 tongues and 1 ear. So sometimes we have to be quiet. We have to be quiet for ourselves, and we have to be quiet for others. And so when you're quiet, that's when you go into that inner space and ask for divine guidance. And hear that inner voice guiding you. Listen with that understanding and unconditional love. Focus really on what's being heard. What are you hearing? So sometimes when you're working with yourself, you might want to jot down in a journal, wow, this is what I said to myself. How can I change that? How can I transform that? Because that's not the way I want to talk to myself. And when you're working with others, you might want to reflect back to what you heard to make sure that you understood it correctly. Because there is a lot of miscommunication in life. I don't think I'm the only one. But when we actually take time to say, you know, this is what I heard you say, and then they can validate that or not. Because even though we think, sometimes when we think we're listening, and we are actively listening, we might still hear it wrong. And that could be because of different cultures. It could be because of different settings that we've been and environments that we grew up, so we have different meanings for different words. even in America. You know, we don't all speak the same English language. I mean, especially generational, right? So make sure we know what we're hearing. Because I had to ask my 9-year-old grandson this week, I'm like, what was that you said? And what does that mean? Because I didn't understand. He was using a word I understood, but not in the context that he was using it. So I had to stop and say, wait a minute. What was that? And what did you mean? And he's like, Nana. And I'm like, okay, Nana's learning. It happens. And so we have to put each other at ease. That's what we had to do. I had to say, look, I'm sorry. I don't understand. And I need to learn this with you, so you have to teach me. So sometimes, remember, the adults have to be taught by the children, and the children have to be taught by the adults, especially around language and words and how we're using them. So listen for the whole picture, not just the words. What is the context? What are they really saying? What am I really saying to myself? You know, one of the biggest things about listening is the ability to link together the pieces of information to reveal what's going on within yourself and within others. So, when you're doing your own work, let go of the distractions and focus on whoever you're talking with, whether it's yourself or someone else. One of the ways that you can do it is that you can join an MVC group, and we're actually going to have one starting on November 3rd, and it's a nonviolent communication group, or I might change it to compassionate communications. MVC is what's out in the world, but from a unity standpoint, it would be compassionate communications. So on November the 3rd, we'll have a group that meets twice a month on the first and the third Tuesdays evenings from 6:30 to 7:30. It's an hour, twice a month. It'll be on Zoom. It'll be with me. I'll be using and I had them downstairs. I meant to bring them up. The Nonviolent Communications book and workbook. And then there's another one called Communication Across America. And I like it too, but I'll just be using some of the exercises out of it. So join us for that. And in the meantime, check in with yourself every day. It's one of the things I was taught early in childhood was before I went to bed every night, check in with me. Where am I at? How am I feeling? What encounters did I have today that I need to forgive myself for, forgive someone else for? What am I grateful for? And that really helped me grow up. And then especially, you know, when I was in college and in business for the first time, and actually every day, even now. I go through my day and I'm like, okay. And that way I can let it all go. And then I can go to sleep. Because if not, the rabbit or the hamster gets on the wheel and I'll be up all day. So what am I feeling in this moment? And what am I requiring? Those are just 2 questions that you can ask yourself. And having that gratitude journal to write in every day is a wonderful tool to use. Pick a friend who has practiced MVC or is willing to learn and grow without judgment and criticizing. Keep a judgment journal. If you haven't had one of those before, it's pretty good. Especially for self-empathy. You know, what did you guess about other people this week? Celebrate your achievements. Support yourself in the decisions that you made. write about your feelings and emotions. And then, of course, the main one is to spend that time in the silence for divine guidance. So whether you're joining a group or you're doing it on your own, doesn't really matter. I invite you to continue on the path of seeking that spiritual consciousness with ease and grace. Namaste.